Hi guys, today we're going to talk about the me4animation sample. This sample can be found on the MindExpress website, and this sample will demonstrate how you can move objects around, move cells around in MindExpress. Now, there are multiple pages in this document, and we will go over them in a moment. But let's first focus on the first page. Now, important to know is that if you want to use this animation sample, you need to make sure that your MindExpress is at least version 4.4.1. If your MindExpress version is lower than this, then please first update your MindExpress using help check for updates. Okay, now, in order for animation to work in MindExpress, you need to use a bit of scripting. Now, scripting is located under Document, Script, and you will see a few lines of what may seem like very difficult stuff, but it's actually quite simple once you know what's going on. And I will try to explain what is going on in this movie. Okay, let's first have a look at what this page does. So as soon as I press the play button, the apple moves from point A to point B. Every time it does this. Okay, now let's go to edit mode and see what's on this page. So first of all, we have 3 cells that have a cell ID. We have A1, A2, which just has cell ID A2, and then we have a cell called apple. And then lastly we have a play button. And the play button is actually the one that initiates the action. And so the action that this button does is a script action that goes move A and then parenthesis open, parenthesis close. Okay. Now, what happens, and this is always the case for scripting, let's go to the script and you will see this move A with open and close parentheses in the script. Now, it's important if you use script, you always start your script with import me4, and then if you want to do animation, which is the case, then you also do import me4 animation. Okay, those 2 lines you just need for the animation. Then, let's look at the move A function. Okay, now, a function in script always starts with def, define is that, and then the name of the function. This can be anything. You can choose this name, doesn't matter. In this case we've called it move A, and the function always ends with return. So that means that we are at the end of our function. We should not execute anything else. And then in between we have instructions of what should happen. Now, if we have a look at the move A function, what we see is we use the animation of MindExpress and then do a point and then move. And this is actually almost always the case for this entire sample. We will always use the move function, or almost always, there are exceptions. And then we're defining with 3 arguments in this function. We have apple, a number, and then another name. So the first instruction here tells MindExpress to move the apple in 0 milliseconds to position A1, to a cell with ID A1. So move the cell with ID apple, and note that the apple is between hyphens. So move apple, the cell with ID apple, move it in 0 milliseconds to position of cell with ID A1. Now, of course, 0 milliseconds, that just means move it instantly. So the first thing this will do is move the apple immediately to position A1. second instruction tells Apple to move to position A2, but move in 2000 milliseconds, which equals to 2 seconds. And so me4animation will move the apple to position A2, and it will take 2 seconds for it to move to position A2. So by specifying this number, you can actually determine how fast the apple should move from cell A to cell A1 to cell A2. Now again, A1 and A2, those are arbitrary names. You can name it anything you like. But let's change the number to, let's say, 5 seconds. Okay, so now you will notice that as soon as I press the play button, the apple will move a lot slower because I've changed the number and I've told me4animation take 5 seconds for the apple to move. Now, we can also turn around the animation by saying, okay, me4animation, move the apple to position A2 first, and then move to position A1 and take 5 seconds, or take, in this instance, only take 1 second. Okay, now if we play, you will see that the apple is now moving in the opposite direction and it's taking less time. Great. Let's have a look on the second page. Here we're actually doing exactly the same. So here we are going to say, okay, move the bear from position, and we'll have a look, from position B1 to position B2. And notice that B1 is a lot smaller than B2. So what will happen is, if we go have a look at the script, so the play button is doing, again, script move B, parenthesis, and then we can press this little button to jump to the function immediately. You will see that we are moving the bear first to position B1. And then we will move the bear in 1 second to position B2. Now, because B1 is smaller than B2, what happens is me4animation will shrink the bear first to the position of B1 and then move it to position B2, and while moving, make the bear bigger. So again, here you can change the timing. So again, this is, for example, 4 seconds. Okay, and if I press the play button now, you will see that the bear is growing from B1 to B2. Same with the car. So the car is the object we want to move. We have here a small cell C1 and a bigger cell C2. So if we have a look at the play button, it's saying move C. And if we look at move C, what happens is move the car to position C1 in 0 milliseconds. So move it to position C1, which is very small position. And then move the car to position C2 in 1 second. And that's how you get this effect. The car is slowly growing out from the center. So by simply positioning your start and end position, you can already, and by varying the size of your start and end position, you can grow, shrink, you can move things around. Now on the next page, we are actually going to chain movements. So what we have here is, again, not so difficult. We have, and that's a typing error, doesn't matter. We have D1, D2, D3, and D4. And, well, we're actually going to correct this. Like this. Okay. So the play button is going to do a script action, move D. And if you have a look at the script action, what it does is we're going to start by moving the deer, and we're going to have to correct the mistake here as well, of course, like this. We're going to move the cell deer to position D2 in 1 second. We will then move the deer to D3, do D4, and do D1. So we're actually going to make a loop. And what happens is the actions are actually queued. So it will first do the first movement, so 1 second to D2, it will wait to execute the next action until it's at position D2, and then move to D3, and then to D4, and then to D1. So we can actually make things move around the screen like this. So if we press the play button, moving to 2, 3, 4, and back to 1. Great. Now, we can also move multiple cells, of course, by using, again, the same principle. So here we're moving the globe and the eagle, and we're moving them at the same time to different positions. How is this done? Let's have a look. It's the move E function, so DEF, move E, and then we have two objects. Yeah, if you look at the page, edit mode, we have eagle and we have earth. And then we have E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, E6. Okay, so again, if you look at the script, what happens is we're going to move the eagle to position E1, then move it to E2, then to E3, and at the same time, we're going to say earth needs to move to E4, E5, and E6. So different objects can be started at, let's say, the same time. So eagle is one object, and that has its own queue, let's say, so that has its own timeline. And as soon as the script encounters another object, that starts the timeline for that object. Now, because we are actually making the instructions here, the things will happen at the same time. So I'm telling, okay, MindExpress, you should start a timeline for eagle, move to E1, to E2, to E3, and make a timeline E4, E5, E6. And MindExpress will then, as soon as this function, as soon as you do return, will start the animation. So that's how you can make multiple objects move at the same time. Great. Okay. Now, there's also a way to stop actions. That's quite simple. We have here F1, foot, and F2. We have a play button that says move F, and we have a stop button that says stop F. So move F, what does it do? Very simple. It will go from F1 to F2 in 2 seconds. And the stop F will simply do, and that's a new function here, me4animation stop, and then what object do I need to stop? Foot. So I could have multiple objects moving around, and by specifying stop for a specific object, I can stop one of the objects. So what happens is when you do this, you press play, you press stop, and the animation is immediately stopped. The timeline is interrupted, nothing else will happen. Right, so this could be a game where you have to position something on the screen by clicking the stop button at the correct time, for example. Great. And by the way, note that, of course, F1 and F2 are now placeholders, but I could obviously, by making them completely transparent and giving them no border, we're going to, okay, that has no action. Yeah, we're going to move something on screen, and the user will not see the placeholders, right? Okay, now for our purpose, it's interesting to see what's going on. But just so you know that these cells don't have to have a specific style that you can see. So they can, these placeholders can have a transparent style, so you don't see where they are positioned. Great. Then there's another new function called move relative. So in this case, we're going to, and we'll have a look, this is gazelle. And if you look at the up button will do move G up. If you look at what happens, we have a new function of me4animation that says move the gazelle object 1 second and move it 0 in the x-axis. So in the horizontal axis, don't move it, and in the vertical axis, do -20. Now this is more complex. because it uses positions. So a negative value means move up, a positive value means move down. And for left and right, it's the same. So negative value moves it left, positive value moves it to the right. So what happens if we press these buttons is it will take the position of gazelle and just move the gazelle in 1 second to the position you specify. And this allows you to position an object to your liking. Great. Then on this page, there's more stuff going on. Let me first show you what happens. So we're moving our object. The music key is our object. And we have M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, M6, and M7 cells. And we're moving the music key to these specific positions. And we have cells, music sol, music la, and music si, which are just music notes. Yeah, so they're playing just simple notes. And we will have a look at the programming of this. Okay, so there's more stuff going on here. The first thing we're going to do is move the music key to position M1. Okay, this is clear. Then, next, move the music key in 500 milliseconds, so half a second, move it to position M2. Then, do the actions for music key. So as soon as music key has moved, do the actions of the cell with ID music sol. And then so on. So then we move in half a second to position M3, we do a C, to M4 we do a La, to M5 we do C, to M6 we do Sol, and then in 1 second move to M7, and when you're there, play music Sol again. Great. So this do actions allows you to perform actions of another cell while you're doing the animation. So you can build up the timeline, and so you're building up a timeline. The complete timeline for music key is move it to M1, move it to M2, do the actions of music sol, and so on. We also have an action called wait, which tells the music key button to just wait and do nothing for 500 milliseconds. Once the 500 milliseconds are over, it's going to move the music key back to position M1. So let's go over that again. If you do this, and then back to position M1. So this is already a bit more complicated, but it's just building up a timeline for a specific object. Great. And then on the last page, and the last thing we're going to show is we're now combining the option of animated GIFs with the option of moving an object around. So if we have a look at what we have Flying Bird, which is actually an animated GIF. We have position N1, we have position N2, and we have an action called Stop Bird, which will stop, which does a change cell, animated GIF stop, cell with ID Flying Bird. Now, let's have a look at this action. It's move N. So what does it do? First of all, it says animate object Flying Bird in 0 milliseconds, move it to position N1. So just put the Flying Bird on position N1. Then it's telling Flying Bird to start the animation, start its own animation. So it will start the flapping of the wings. Then move Flying Bird in 3.5 seconds to position N2. And then once you are on position N2, do the actions of the cell Stop Bird. And as we saw, Stop Bird is stopping the animation of the Flying Bird. So again, move to position N1, start the animation of cell flying bird, move it to its position N2, and then once you're there, do the actions of cell stop bird. Okay. These are of course the more complicated actions of this sample, but I just want to include them for completeness so you know how you can do this. Now, the easiest and simplest way of moving a cell around, again, it's not so hard. Make sure you have import me4 in your script, import me4animation, have a function, you can call it whatever you like, and just do move apple to position A2 and move it to position A1. You can play around with this sample. It's there for you to learn. I hope this movie can help you to understand what's going on, and it allows you to create all kinds of new activities and allows you to move cells around, move multiple cells around, and yeah, you can just use this sample to experiment. Okay, thank you for listening.